Keith, some people are mentioning they are seeing similarities between Mr. Trump and Adolf Hitler. Do you see any relation amongst the two?
You know, I'm not a politician, but I was born between the First and Second World War at the time when Hitler was coming into power. And as a child, I can actually remember hearing Hitler on the radio. Yes, I am very concerned about Mr. Trump, and some of his attitudes are very similar to what Adolf Hitler wanted to create a superior people that actually had no faults, and that's why he exterminated all the Jews who he considered were very inferior. But now I'm seeing Mr. Trump want to go, when he's reelected, wanting to change our government and going to do the Department of Justice and the different departments and make them completely different. And when Adolf Hitler was coming into power, everybody fell in love with him. I mean, everybody on one half of the population anyway. And they were just, everything that Hitler said was fine, and he was going to make a perfect world, which obviously didn't happen. But it frightens me right now to think that Mr. Trump, with some of his attitudes, could persuade the huge numbers of people that he's able to persuade into situations which I think would lead definitely to dictatorship.
I'm sure that Mr. Trump believes that the Department of Justice is weaponized against him. But what do you think about what he said, that if he becomes in power, he will weaponize the...
Well, of course, if a person feels like everybody's against him and they have the power to do something about it, they will do something about it. And that's where we go into dictatorship, where different departments go towards what he says and not necessarily what the Constitution says. No, I think we're living in some very scary times right now. And having been brought up during the Hitler era and also the Stalin and Mussolini, I can see some real similarities, just from, not even from the political standpoint, but just from the standpoint of people wanting to be in power and people being willing to follow them. I think what we saw happen on the Capitol steps was a good indication of what could happen under a dictatorship.
What do you believe are the two biggest similarities between the two?
Well, the fact that Hitler had rallies and groups of people where he got up and spoke, and it was all about creating a superior race. And now we see rallies going on where it's all about making America great again, and which is essentially saying, let's make it superior again. When we see Mr. Trump's legions or admiration for different dictators in the world today, I think that in itself creates a certain amount of concern too.
What do you think about the people that ignore what we're talking about right now?
Well, of course, everybody has an opinion, and I think we all have the right to have our opinions. But I think, from my standpoint, I find it kind of hard to believe that some people believe some of the things that are being told to them. And but once again, we live in a free society where everybody can make up their own mind. But I'm afraid that in certain leadership, that freedom can be taken away from us very quickly. And I saw it happen I was just a child, but you know, my parents talked a lot about it, and we watched and actually listened to Hitler on the radio. But the people of Germany thought that they were being saved by Hitler, and they believed it.
Do you think any of those people had any idea where their country would have gone?
I think a lot of people did, because we lived in Germany after that, and we lived among people who had gone through the war and the Holocaust and the whole bit. But a lot of people saw it coming, but it was such that if you talked about a neighbor or about your family or anything, you could be executed for it. And people were very much afraid to ever say anything about anything that was politically inclined for fear of their own lives.
If Trump is nominated and reelected, what do you think could possibly be the worst case scenario?
Well, I think that like I said, we could go into a dictatorship where he is the sole say in everything, which is what he likes, and it's been shown before.
Then he would have to amend the Constitution.
I don't know if he'd have to amend it or not, or if he'd just go around it,
How could he remain? I guess he did try to go around it, and he was very close.
Yeah. I think at a certain point, the Constitution probably would have no power whatsoever, if you have the right forces there. Particularly if you get everybody that's in the different branches of government to be assigned by him and answer to him, just like Hitler's Corps did with him, and Mussolini and Stalin. All these people just started out as individuals with ideas, and they got everybody on their team, and that's, I think, could happen here.
If Trump is reelected, what do you believe his number one goal would be?
I think Mr. Trump's number one goal always has been Mr. Trump. And I think that's probably a little judgmental, but it's just the way it appears to me. And I think it would be just to be in complete control of the nation and the people. I see in this whole situation, we went through the 2020 election with Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump running against each other. And we saw how that worked out, as being presented as being false all the way through, and a rigged election and all of that. If Mr. Trump were to lose a second time, it would be the same thing all over again, I'm sure. If he wins, of course, everything is going to be fine. And so it's interesting, too. I don't think they went back and counted the ballots on the states that he won in the first place, but only the part he lost. So I think, if you want my opinion, which you didn't ask for, but I'll give it, I just really hope that we have two different contenders so we don't have to go through this whole thing again, just like it was. So that would be my sincere wish for this next election. I'm 92 years old. I'm going to die. I'm the lucky one.